Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Lorena Saavedra Smith, who's here to share with us her new book, Awaken Your Roots, Reclaim Your Ancestry and Sovereignty by Heeding the Jaguar's Call. So what if the path to healing begins not in striving, but in coming home to yourself? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Lorena Saavedra Smith is a philosopher and eco-psychologist. Originally from Peru and replanted to the U.S., Lorena is a lifelong storyteller and keeper of ancestral wisdom and medicine. More than 2 decades of experience in the wellness industry, Lorena draws on a multidisciplinary background to help others find healing through inner wisdom and the healing powers of nature. So welcome to the show, Lorena Saavedra Smith.
Oh, Marianne, thank you so much for having me. Gracias.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book. What even inspired you to write this?
Yeah, well, so Awaken Your Roots began as as a private act of survival. Because I spent years battling with anxiety, with depression, and the deep emotional disconnection. I was feeling that I didn't belong. And that also, along with my experience as an immigrant, was not a good combination. So I had achieved so much then from the outside, but inside there was something missing. And so those moments become critical for me, and I turn into writing. Writing become kind of like the way I was able to let people or let what I was feeling out. More than writing was my poetry. I started writing poetry, my reflections, and a lot of questions. So I wasn't necessarily writing a book. I was writing my way back to myself. And eventually I started using what was I discovering, and especially the ways that I was connecting with nature and ancestral practices. I decided to start working with that with my clients. And my clients are women who are high achieving. Most of them are first and second generation immigrants. A lot of them are Latinas who navigate life feeling there's a sense of grief and a sense of feeling kind of invisible. And so in that result of working with them, the way of seeing them, how they were not just coping, but they were really finding a way of healing. So I took note to that, and that became a map. And so that was kind of like the seed that was planted. And the question keeps coming like, what about if others need this too? So in my own exploration about how can I put this in service of others, I decided I want to self-publish. And I was working with an editor, and my editor, she said, you have something different here, so you should submit it to publishing houses. And I did. I entered a contest and I won a contest. The book won a contest, and that led me to bring Awaken Your Roots to being published with Sounds True. So the book is, I would like to say that the book doesn't necessarily is a prescription, is, if anything, a way of remembering to return. And it's practical. It has a lot of poetry as well. And it has the poetic invitation to reclaim our roots, to reclaim our own rhythms and the way that we belong to each other into the world.
Well, I thought your book was so beautifully put together, and I'm so delighted that we
Oh, thank you.
get, oh my gosh, yeah, what a profound read. And I'm so just delighted we get to spend this time together. So for someone that's new to this, what does it mean to awaken your roots?
Yeah. So the story of the title is very profound because we were battling onto many different names, but like the creation of the book, there were not just a single moment of how we get there. There's no one a single moment of how you can awaken roots. This is become kind of like a pattern. And in my own life, I saw how deeply lost, or how what does it mean to feel this loss of land, the loss of language, the loss of lineage, and was that I realized it was shaping my mental health. And as a therapist, I also noticed that some of the grief that others were bringing, especially again for this type of these women who came for my support, those women, and I'm not going to say just women, but people who feels that they are no ni de aquí ni de allá, so they're not from here, they're not from there. And so to me, awaken your roots is a combination of many different things. It was a way for me to come back to myself. It was a way for me to reclaim the ancestral knowledge that it was passed down through my grandmothers. And it's an invitation for whoever is reading to let them know there's other ways of accessing healing, there's other ways to connect with themselves and to connect with nature. But beyond that, there are ways of where we can feel that we belong to something larger, which is the natural world.
So the jaguar plays such a
Mm.
central role in your book. What does the jaguar symbolize?
Yeah, the Jaguar. I found this in a very in a story. I was doing my research, and I was privileged enough to sit with a lot of elders from different places and the Andean region, as well as in Mesoamerica. And what keeps coming back in different places and different regions, yet the idea of the jaguar or if, a feline image keeps coming back and back. So I sit with one elder and he told me the story that when the jaguar come back is when humanity will find its way to be regulated. So in other words, the jaguar is a symbol of how we in this plane of existence, matter, right? So material, as humans in form, the jaguar become the regulator. And in many traditions is also kind of like the one that oversees how humans are relating to the natural world. So the Jaguar became an instrumental piece of my writing because as I was writing it, uh, I decided that I was going to confront the Jaguar, but from a sense of like, I don't have, it's not as intimidating. Of course, the image of confronting a Jaguar is intimidating no matter what. But noticing that the Jaguar could be the symbol of nature, and I'm just literally finding my way to nature to become, or more than become, to reclaim my place in nature.
It seems that right now so many people have this really big disconnection with nature. What is one way that they can start reconnecting themselves that really would impact them?
There's so many simple ways, but they are so profoundly um, powerful. And I support this to women who I call replanted, right? Women who have made the transit from one environment to another one. Either they are immigrants or they just moving from one location to another location. The idea of presenting yourself to the representation of nature in the area where you are, that allows, it opens the door for you to create this, I call it sacred contract, the sacred contract with nature. And it sounds somehow romantic, right? That we're treating nature that way, but it does something. It brings us in kind of like at a common ground between we, or me in this case, as a human, finding my way to create a cycle of reciprocity with nature. That little, for many, insignificant moment can change the trajectory of somebody, or not only on how they relate to nature, but how nature relate to that person.
Such profound advice. And for folks that are maybe they want to begin kind of getting related to their roots, but they're unsure about their roots at all, where do they start?
So I had a client that, like many, she didn't know where her roots were, because she found out later in life that she was adopted. So it was she was a little conflicted on what kind of roots she was looking at. It was her adopted family, it was her original biological family. And my advice to her was, and this is not just, I wish I can say it comes from me, but it comes from the elders that I sit with them for many years, is go on what feels more maternal. So for people like my other clients that I have, they are bicultural, right? So they have their parent, one side of their family is from one culture, and the other side of the family are from another culture, and this person doesn't know where to start. I encourage them to go for what feels more maternal to them, and start looking and investigating the way on what this particular lineage or this particular history and family history they used to heal the soul, attempted to heal the body, and how they stay with people who are in moments of emotional distress. So that's kind of like the route that I take with my clients. And that's the route that I approach in the book as well, because we have to understand that there is a lot of conversation, multi-generational silence as well. So we have to be very careful when we open the door to hear what happened in the past. So going for what it feels more maternal is always my base approach, and emphasizing that in order for us to make the full integration, when time is right, we have to also go to the other side, even though if it feels more dramatic, more wounding, there's a lot of wounding on the other side. In order for us to feel integrated, we have to integrate both sides of our family.
Thank you for taking the time to share that. I thought that was so powerful. And it's interesting. So many people are in survival mode. How do they get to a place, first of all, of recognizing, okay, I'm in survival mode? Because I think we're just kind of like little hamsters on a wheel and not really paying attention, but also getting to a place, in your book, you talk about sovereignty.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Yeah. So in the whole process of my process of recovering my emotional sovereignty, right? there were some places, there's some ways that I did that later on become like maps, become like structures that I created. It first was for me, so I could keep coming back on and on when I feel that I was dysregulated, when I feel that there was moments of crisis and so on. And so what I present to my clients and what I present in the book as well is this framework, what I call care. And I would like to share how do I do that with an example, because I think I hope that your listeners can relate to that. And it happened not too long ago, actually. The book was released last September, and I've been having this type of conversations and interviews with people. And a couple of months ago, I got invited to a podcast interview that I really deeply care about. But the moment that I closed my laptop, I felt like the second guessing was coming in, this wave of self-doubt. And and I remember saying to myself that I did the right thing, that I say the right thing, that I missed the opportunity of the lifetime. So I got into this inner spiral, which is, by the way, very familiar for me. And I'm sure it's very familiar for a lot of people, especially women who always are like constantly trying to prove their worth. And if anything, that we have been conditioning for that. And then I turn into my own methodology, which is care. And so I notice, I use the K of care. I start noticing that something was happening. So I pause and acknowledge and realize that I was triggered. This, not necessarily what I was feeling was related to my nerves for the interview, but it was something deeper than that. It was fear. So, and then I went to the A of care, which is assess, and I check in with my body, like physically. I checked with my chest, and I noticed that it was very tight. Even I was in such a distress moment that I wanted to cry. I realized that that this was not just about the interview in itself. This was actually touching all wounds of fear that encapsulate the idea of me not being enough and the ideas of me not being being invisible and misunderstood, right? Because of my accent, because the way I speak, and so on. And then I move into art, which is reconciling. So I close my eyes and I call the youngest part of me, which have a name. And in Andean wisdom, we call that process calling your Nuna back or your soul back. So I was able to get in this deep connection with this intrinsic part of me, and I so gently tell her, you did your best, that you show up with love and with care, with open heart, that you prepared. And I remember her that my worth is not measured by the way that I perform.
I think that is something so good for everyone to remember.
Yes, exactly. And then I move into engender, which is the way I ground myself. And the way I do that is very somatically, right? So for me, I blew the wind 3 times, and this is a ritual from my ancestral lineage that could be something that somebody else does in their own way, in their own lineage. And I remember placing the hands on my heart. I touched my face. I did a very somatic experience. I remember braiding my hair too. often in a way of offering tenderness to my own body. And I remember that this interview wasn't just about me. That the interview, if anything, was the opportunity to share a message that many people needed to hear.
It's interesting. Lately, that piece about I'm not good enough has come up a lot in different discussions that I've had. So I'm so glad that you are sharing this and diving into that because I'm pretty sure everybody has this to one degree or another.
Yeah. I mean, we cannot go far enough to know hearing that message coming from every direction too. So it is important for us, and here comes the piece of emotional sovereignty, that when you remember how to get there, you also have strategies in place that allow you, that it becomes sustainable for you to keep doing this process again and again.
So it's really interesting. I hear of people that turn to a lot of different wellness practices and still feel very unfulfilled. What do you think might be missing from our modern approaches to healing?
That's a great question. And for years, I actually got into that whole thing as well, right? Because I was doing so many different things. I got training many different methodologies and approaches and protocols on how to care for the body, how to care for the soul, how to care for the mind, and so on. But what kept coming back is the feeling of emptiness. That something was missing. To me, was that something was missing. So the more I move into the direction of my ancestral wisdom, that is to Pacha philosophy, that teach me how to heal, how healing is not just for us, but it's also a way where we can participate in restoring harmony in the world. The more that I keep investigating and recuperating the knowledge, it was like a day and night. It felt like all the protocols, all the methodologies I learned earlier were just the kind of like the key to open a door. And when I accepted that this piece of knowledge that I have from my ancestors were that they used to from millennia, when I accepted that, things start falling into the right place, and I can sincerely say that today I'm living the life that I always dreamed. I mean, I'm not going to say that my life is perfect, but I know how to enjoy the moments of happiness and enjoy the moments of being in relationship and in close proximity with my fellow human being, right? Either it's from my inner circle here in my house, in community, and so on. So yeah, is once I learned that recuperating my roots was giving me the access to a wisdom that it was always there. It was just dormant. Things start unfolding in a way, and here we are. Here we are.
What shifts do you hope readers experience as they move through your book?
Mm. The intention for the book, if anything, is an invitation. The invitation for them to go deeper into where they come from. Because knowing where we come from, it will allow us to know where we're going, where we're moving forward. And the message is that we are not, although we feel defeated, we feel broken, a lot of times we feel that we're fragmented, either as emotionally fragmented, culturally fragmented. We're not, because nature is whole and complete, and I am, and you are, Marianne, you are in nature in itself. So how could I feel broken and defeated if I am nature myself? So that's the message. I want to encourage people not to romanticize nature, but to feel that there is a pure relationship with nature, and that we humans have our own we have our own place in this ecosystem of how nature is moving by cycle by cycle.
My goodness, Lorena, you're such an inspiration. And your book, Awaken Your Roots, I thought was such a profound read. Where can our listeners go to connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, there's several ways people can connect with my work. First, I hold a beautiful online sisterhood that I call the Sacred Woman Garden. And this is a gentle space where we tend to our stories and inner roots. And this is through daily prompts, monthly cycles, or circles. We do online circles. And I also explore ways of guided rituals. Then I had the 8 to 10 week private immersion, and this is for people who are ready to really dive in a one-on-one support using the care method. And then there's another method that I talk in the book, which is the replanting process. And of course, you can find me. I have a Substack account where I publish reflections and poetry and practical tools around feeling belonging, emotional sovereignty, and nature-based wisdom. And this is an ongoing process because I keep sitting with elders, I keep listening and recuperating wisdom. So I love this way of me relating with my community, telling them what is exactly that I am learning. And of course, I'm very active on social media. I share in social media about the insights of not only of my book, but insights about clients' journey and how to remember remember them that we're not alone in this process. And the book is available anywhere where books can be sold, either is Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Somebody called me and told me that, oh, I found your book in Walmart. I was like, oh, good. So even in Walmart. And if somebody wants to start, my website have a lot of content. Most of them is free. If you're ready to start in the replanting journey, you will find a lot of information there.
Well, Lorena, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Marianne, thank you so much for everything that you do for our community.
Well, thank you, Lorena. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Awaken Your Roots. Reclaim your ancestry and sovereignty by heeding the Jaguar's call. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.